Hi there, how's it going? So I just wanted to start off this video, maybe explaining who I think the plainclothes officer was who basically answered the 911 call that was made to the Shermans, right? They believe that it was like 10 or 11 doors down, but there was a mysterious 911 call that obviously couldn't be traced because it was probably made on a cell phone. Now, Kevin Donovan states that he believes there was a plainclothes officer that was caught on camera that parked in the Sherman's front driveway. So this is important because the only footage the police have released has been the mysterious walking man video suspect. So because Kevin Donovan, he says that he thinks a plainclothes officer was there. He says that there was a murder lookout and that the murder lookout essentially was the accomplice to the actual murderer. So one has to ask the question, well, who was the plainclothes officer, right? And the reason I'm bringing up this guy, Viktor Sarudi, is because go back a couple years ago, there was a video released of him. He's a Division 53 officer. However, I believe Division 33's own Twitter page, they released a video essentially explaining from Viktor Sarudi that he was on online private investigator sites like web sleuths, right? And that Viktor Sarudi himself said that he was trying to steer the public in the right direction to solve the murder case. Unfortunately, if you go on TPS Division 53 and TPS Division 53 and 33, Division 33 was the police division that was responsible for the Sherman murder case, along with Toronto homicide at headquarters. But if you go to either pages from either divisions, you'll see there's a missing timeline. When you think that there would be Barry and Honey Sherman murder case content released, like an issued statement by police, there's a missing timeline there, and there's no such video. So, that doesn't indicate anything too suspicious, right? But it makes me really question. So if there's any online sleuthers, or if there's any detectives, online detectives, someone has to have the video of Viktor Sarudi stating that he's on web sleuths and he's trying to steer the public in the right direction, right? Someone has to have that video. Someone knows Toronto Police's media account pages. But either way, so web sleuths. When you log in, I couldn't log in personally because when I tried to log in, my email was already blocked, so I couldn't start an account on web sleuths. But what I found when I was kind of peeping the website is that there's obviously a contact form, right? Your last name, first name. So when I looked at this account, where is it? Cedars. When I looked at this account, Cedars, this wasn't his default blue icon with the C. This actually was VS. So when you clicked on this guy's page, I can't do that right here because it says you need to be logged in. But at the time, before, my first initial account got fucking, blocked or whatever, essentially when I looked at this icon, it said VS. VS. So it got me thinking, well, if the default was VS, could it be because of the contact page, first name, last name, Viktor Sarudi? TPS Officer Viktor Sarudi, right? Here you can see him. He actually lives in Newmarket, and he has his own private business as a cop. He has also a private little business he's got going on, the Stump Shop, right? And it made me think, Cedars. Okay, well, there's actually, if you look here, I've actually looked through several of these messages online, right? And essentially this post here, he's talking about how there was a documentary released by CBC Kathleen Goldhar. It's a ridiculously long name, but essentially he's talking about Kathleen being on the production and Lisa. And in this post, he says, well, I'll confess, I'm a detective from TPS trying to steer the vital crime solving forum in the right direction to find out the truth, what really happened, because it's clearly beyond us, incompetent police. It's up to the media and random members of the public with too much time on their hands. Well, I'll confess, I'm a detective from TPS. So he says he's a detective. Now, given this statement, maybe he is. I don't know who this account belongs to. But, I'm kind of thinking he's not. I'm kind of thinking this guy is just a neighborhood officer. I'm thinking he's actually pretty close to the case. I mean, I don't know. He says he's a detective. Maybe he's directly working with Toronto homicide. I don't know. Well, let's find out. I don't think so because this guy's Cedars, right? He keeps on coming with alternate explanations. And you'll find that out in a minute. So originally, he was going off of Carrie Winter. He was saying, oh, Carrie Winter did it, Carrie Winter did it. But until they released the suspect video, then he had to change his complete story. But let's just go through this one by one, right? So he says here, in question and answer after the press conference, Brandon Price explained that the suspect is seen on the night of the murders on a property adjacent to the Shermans going in that direction of the non-videoed Sherman property. The walker was not recorded by cameras on other side of the Sherman property as they would have walked past the Sherman property. The walker stayed in this unfilmed zone of the Sherman property for a period of time that coincides with the murders first took place, before he is seen again on a neighbor's camera walking by. I think this would stand up in court if it supported on other evidence, circumstantial proof of the walker's spent period or time on the Sherman home, murdering them rather than innocently loitering on a very cold night just outside the property where a double murder had just happened. So I'm not one to be a grammar Nazi, but I don't know. From a forensic point of view, I could take out these commas. This could be a run-on sentence or whatever. But it's interesting. He says, rather than innocently loitering, right? Because if the only footage the Toronto police have is the walking man suspect, then it would make sense that if you were trying to deflect from that being true, you would say that this person wasn't innocently loitering, which the Toronto police, to be fair, have no proof that this guy wasn't innocently loitering or loitering at all. He was in the neighborhood walking. Why would he be loitering? I don't know. So we know that this person is a cop. We know that he's directly tied to the case in some way or form. I agree, in my opinion, TPS would never waste time physically hanging around the home like that. No? In my opinion, that's true behavior of a minion of some sort, who was afraid of getting into trouble by letting down a client who expected them to wait. I think it's up to the 911 operator to decide whether to hang up the call, which doesn't answer and call back. So he keeps on going again to the operator call. So if he's the officer, Viktor Sarudi, that went to the Shermans, why deflect from the 911 call? Why? I guess Toronto police are just super secretive, maybe, I guess. But it's interesting, right? It is interesting. I agree, in my opinion, TPS would never waste time physically hanging around the home like that. But then who was the plainclothes officer? Right? Are you deflecting that there was? Because Kevin Donovan said there was, right? So it is a little weird, you're going to find in these posts that there are key elements that this guy is trying to pin up. If you look on the website, actually, hold on 1 second. So on this, some of these photos are a little darker because I took them from my phone. In my opinion, Walking Man was just unlucky to choose the route that he could not be traced to the house. I don't personally believe that there was any route in or out that the police failed to find a camera for. Wait a minute. Oh, yeah. So he says, law enforcement were focused on who entered the property before the murder and left after the murder. Someone arriving and leaving after the murder does not identify them as a murderer. Wait, what? Say that again. Someone arriving and leaving after the murder does not identify them as the murderer. Therefore, if the plainclothes officer, change the sentence. Someone arriving and leaving before the murder does not identify them as a murderer. Why aren't you making that distinction? Someone arriving and leaving after or before? Why would the distinction matter? Because if you were there right? I mean, are you afraid of getting into trouble? Is that why? Right? Law enforcement were focused who entered on the property. Okay, but was law enforcement the one parked in the Sherman's driveway? Interesting. Okay. So just to go back, again, this is Viktor Sarudi, Cedars, Stump Shop, it's all in the name, right? It's great branding. Personally, I don't think a top detective would basically take his biggest fucking, hobby and then just post it up. But then again, I'm not a detective, so don't worry what I got to say. But you can see this guy's quite active, on Instagram. He's active. He's out in the community, which is good. He's like a humble guy. He's got the dad pants on, the cargos. Yeah, smile like that. Nothing could go wrong, right? So I'm just saying, I'm not making any speculation here, but could it be, right? Like, if this guy's so close to the case, you know what? I think if anyone's online sleuthers, whatever, ask Viktor Sarudi, because remember that video. Remember the video that I think Division 33 released, where Viktor himself was on camera saying he was trying to steer the online community in the right direction. You know what? Maybe he is. Maybe he's not a detective, but maybe he is very close to the case. You know what? You should ask him. You should go to Newmarket and ask Viktor Sarudi. Viktor Sarudi, Division 53, as you can see here, right? Boom. Viktor Sarudi, Neighborhood Community Officer Team 1, Thorncliffe Park. Bam. Neighborhood officer. All right, continuing on. This is about, again, the 911 operator, right? He goes into detail about how phones are harder to trace, right? Which I think is a key detail, because that would explain why he was there in the first place. But the funny thing is that Cedars, I think he knows a lot about this neighborhood, because just a personal aside, when I was born long ago, my family lived on Old Colony Road. My father couldn't afford a nicer home closer to downtown. It was outer fringe of Toronto with a huge lot and small modest ranchers, blah, blah, blah. No swimming pools. We had to move away from my father's job, and it broke my mother's heart. So although I don't remember it, I spent my life hearing of her lament about having to leave the paradise on Old Colony Road. So he has a tragic backstory. Look at that. He even has a tragic backstory going back to Old Colony Road. What do you know? Humble beginnings. But no one was there, right? Maybe he had good intentions, Viktor Sarudi. Maybe Viktor Sarudi had good intentions. So I would ask Viktor Sarudi, right? If he had good intentions, maybe he's just trying to deflect from, look, he responds to Bobby Pearl. Yes, agree that it is possible, but why put the lockbox on the front door then? Why not put the lockbox on the door if you plan to use the key? So I don't know what this non-answer is. But essentially, you have to remember that as a part of the evidence, the door was snubbed. The door was snubbed. Doorknob was shivved, right? Now, I don't know. I don't know who's good with tools or whatever. I'm not very good with tools. I've never tried to break into any door, right? But I do know, if you put a key and you fuck up your key into the doorknob and it fucks up the lock, it could bunt. It could make a little dent inside the metal, right? Oh, you dented the metal because you tried to put your key in wrong, right? And they're talking about the lockbox here. So if he was, let's say if Viktor Sarudi had some very good intentions, if he had some good intentions, maybe he was trying to break into the Sherman's house to save them. Maybe he was this valiant hero. That makes sense. He was trying to save the Shermans. Yay, policing our heroes. Okay, sweet. So maybe that explains it. Ask Cedars if he tried to break into the house, because there was some damage to it, right? Or maybe it was robbers, because he mentions robbers too. He does mention robbers, actually. He mentions burglars. It occurs to me with the Shermans having been burgled before, right? Because there were burglaries in the Sherman neighborhood around or just before the time that they were murdered, right? Remember that. But anyways, with other recent burglaries in the neighborhood, would Barry and Honey Sherman put up a life or death fight? Perhaps they were told and believed that the intruders would only steal their stuff. Maybe that's why then. Maybe that's why Viktor Sarudi is so nervous, because he knows that the Shermans were killed by burglars, right? And if he broke into the Shermans' house, then that's why he didn't want, I get it now. He didn't want to look like a burglar who killed the Shermans. That's why he broke into their house. And that's why it's so super duper secret. Sorry, I messed that up. Man, I just got to take a breather for a minute. Long dramatic pause. But yeah, so he also, this guy, if it is indeed Viktor Sarudi, right, he has multiple theories. Before the video was released, he was asking about, well, was it Carrie Winter, right? If you're a detective, like he said he was, then why can't you stick to a theory? That's my problem. And I don't think it's indicative of just Viktor Sarudi. I don't think any of the police in this Sherman case have really stuck to a theory. They're just going around in circles and circles. But, it's everything from Jonathan Sherman to Carrie Winter. And Cedar says this about the actual murdering. It's an old technique to display a hated tyrant's head on a pike staff or to leave their body hanging in a prominent location, similar with KKK murders. Were the, Jewish related Shermans killed by the KKK? Stay tuned and find out. KKK, so, all he has to bring up next is Mossad, really, really and truly. The Delphi murders apparently involve moving and posing bodies to look like a ritualistic sacrifice. Court docs reveal horrifying new claims and killings of 2 young girls in Delphi, Indiana. This is not uncommon for murders, blah, blah, blah. Where it's to pose Barry as is seated peacefully, his glasses on, his feet crossed, not restrained. In my opinion, that's not reflective of murder's hatred or desire to humiliate him. Now, the reason why he keeps deviating is because one of his posts seemed like that he's trying to say that Jonathan Sherman killed his parents, right? He says essentially something to the effect that it's just so sick and twisted. Don't underestimate how truly sick and twisted someone's mind has to be responsible for this. In my opinion, it goes far beyond ordinary greed, ordinary resentment. So he's saying, oh, Jonathan Sherman isn't greedy. He's just bitter about his parents. But in another post, he says that you have to be some sick, mentally ill, disturbed person in order to go through with killing your parents. So his logic is just all over the place. It's all over the place, right? Because if Jonathan Sherman is a psychopath, that would explain away the staging. But if he's this sympathetic character, well, then that doesn't make sense, right? Because you said, Cedars, to pose Barry seated peacefully, his glasses on, his feet crossed, not restrained. In my opinion, that's not reflective of murderous hatred or desire to humiliate him. So which is it? Just answer the fucking question. Is the Sherman murderer, is he psychotic? Is he psychopathic? Does he have mental illness? Is he completely devoid of reality? Is he just a sympathetic character who killed his parents and he's grieving? Is he greedy? Is he a piece of shit? What is he? Why do you deviate so much in your claims? If you truly were a detective, right? Cedars, whoever you are, if you were a detective, then why can you never stick to a plot? It's almost like anytime there's any certainty, you just go off the rails and you've made several comments. This is not conducive to the conversation. And yet I can't log in on this bullshit website. Like, the fuck? I'm not the one able to, okay. And just keep in mind, right, for anyone who's paying attention in this current date, it is Monday, March 25th, 2024, okay? So essentially, right now, if you go on web sleuths and these online websites, I'm not allowed to post there. But these guys are taking the time to mention one young blore. This fucking building here. One young blore. Everybody's just losing their fucking minds. Everyone in the Sherman case is now talking about this stupid building at One Young and Blore. They're talking about this guy named Mizra. Like, come on, man. Like, you guys are so fucking bored right now. All you guys talk about, you talk about this shit, and you won't let me post online? What the fuck? Man, you guys don't know what the fuck you're talking about. It's no wonder this place has gone cold. You online sleuthers are fucking tryhards. You guys talk about this shit. You guys have no idea, man. This is crazy. Whoever fooled you guys and actually did the staging, wow, that says a lot. You guys are focused on this shit. You guys are embarrassing. Anyways. So, is it burglars? Is it Kerry Winter? Is it Jonathan Sherman? We don't know. We don't fucking know. Burglars did it, though. It occurs to me that the Shermans have been burgled before. The one recent burglaries in the neighborhood where Barry and Sherman put up a life... Okay, sorry, went through that. Okay, let's further go on these comments. These are the most recent ones, right? He's talking about psychopaths. Thank you. I agree that psychopaths are different and can act normal in context of ordinary life. No one expects other people to be psychopathic. However, homicide detectives know about psychopaths. In my opinion, they would be looking for one investigating the specific case, as psychopaths, narcissists generally do give themselves away during hours of videotape questioning. In my opinion, anyone with a strong motive to commit this crime would have been subjected to. So, you know, someone is responding to his points, saying, I understand your points, but you cannot assume that a murderer who planned this normal in any way, that they didn't have a facade. If this person is a psychopath, I strongly agree and suspect that then all bets are off where normal morals and emotions are concerned. So, you know, for someone who's talking about, you know, the motives of the killer, this guy talks about personal greed. He talks about being sadistic. It just goes on and on and on in circles, you know. But either way, I'm just going to leave it up to you. I'm going to leave it here. This video has kind of gone on. But I'm just going to leave it with this. This guy, Viktor Sarudi. Viktor Sarudi. Oh, wait a second. All right, this guy, Viktor Sarudi. Now, Viktor, please, I want you to come forward and I want you to tell us, for one, were you the plainclothes officer that was parked in the Sherman's driveway? Right? Because maybe you had good intentions. You know, maybe you got a leg up on this. Maybe you know something. Maybe you were trying to stop a burglary, right? Like the door had a marking on it, like someone was trying to break in. Maybe you were trying to save the Sherman's life. And you know what, Viktor? I find that so commendable of you. Really and truly, man. Like, if anyone knows, Viktor Sarudi lives at Newmarket. I believe his wife is Victoria. She owns this place called Threads of Joy. You know, this guy here, he owns a Ford 150. He has, you know, a business called the Stump Shop. You know, he works on cedar and juniper stumps. Isn't that creative? It's awesome. Well, you know, maybe, you know, if this guy's such a family man, he's such a good guy, you know, I believe in Viktor Sarudi. I really do. Member of the community. He's got a Rona deal. He's got a Timberlands Pro deal. He's doing stuff, you know, he's got a future ahead of him. You know, thank God for this guy. So, you know what, everyone, online sleuthers, maybe ask the question, find the video from Division 53, if it's still up, or Division 53 or 33 or whatever. Find the video of him saying that he was on Web Sleuths. Maybe he was the plainclothes officer. Maybe we can finally figure this out, right? Maybe the reason why Kevin Donovan thought that there was a murder lookout is because he mistaked the two footage. Maybe that's what Kevin Donovan. Maybe he was like, oh, you know, I know there's two people because the police literally showed me. Now, that second person, did it look like Viktor Sarudi? I want to know if this tragic hero was the one he was trying to save the Shermans and answer that 911 call. I want to know. And you do too. So go to Newmarket, ask Viktor Sarudi, are you a superhero cop? What did you do with the Shermans? Thanks, everybody. Just dialing that in. Have a great day. Don't sweat it. Breathe easy. Hi there, how's it going? So we're just starting off from the last video that I uploaded. The title was Viktor Sarudi the plainclothes officer in the Sherman murder case? So if you don't know, Barry and Honey Sherman were murdered in their North York home at Old Colony Road, 50 Old Colony Road in 2017, December 13th. So what Kevin Donovan is alleging is that there was a plainclothes officer or undercover cop that came to the Shermans' driveway shortly after they were murdered. So Kevin Donovan's theory is that there was a murder lookout and there was this complex scheme to kill Barry and Honey Sherman. I don't think that there was a murder lookout, but I am very skeptical of this cop, Viktor Sarudi, because essentially I went online to a website called Web Sleuths. Web Sleuths is an online website dedicated to private investigators, and what I found was this member here, Cedars. Now, if you don't know about Web Sleuths, essentially there was Viktor Sarudi. He's a Division 53 officer, but on Toronto Police's Twitter page, Division 33 uploaded a video of Viktor Sarudi saying that Viktor Sarudi was going to go on these online private investigator websites and essentially steer the public in the right direction, whatever that means, right? But when I was viewing this page, I think there was a default login, and the login, V for Victor, S for Sarudi, first name, last name. This page actually was VS. So the default setting, for whatever glitched out reason on the website, I think it showed the true name of the person of this account. It was VS. Now, further, why do I think Viktor Sarudi was the plainclothes officer? Well, let's look, right? Let's look. So the Sunshine List stats. We can find all the Toronto Police. We can find their salaries here. As you see, City of Toronto. City of Toronto Police Service. Year 2023, he's still employed. $121,000, almost $122,000. But let's scroll down to the bottom here. So what do we see? Right? We see that in 2017 to 2019, he was docked in pay. Did Viktor Sarudi get reprimanded for shitty behavior? That's an interesting question. I'd like to know. But even more interesting is this plainclothes officer. So he was an undercover cop, and in 2017, he got reprimanded by his own police department. I wonder why that was. Did he do some sketchy behavior that maybe wasn't so cool? Did the Toronto Police know that Viktor Sarudi was the officer in the Sherman driveway that was caught on camera, right? Are they saying he did some sort of malpractice, or he was obstructing justice, or is it something more dubious and devious? I don't know, but it looks like he was an undercover officer, and in 2017, that was the date when he got reprimanded and he got a dock in pay. Interesting. So there was a comment here. There was another comment on Web Sleuths, and as we're reading, this is what Cedars, or who I believe Viktor Sarudi, to say. He says, just a personal aside, but when I was born long ago, my family lived on Old Colony Road. My father couldn't afford a nicer home, closer to downtown. It was the outer fringe of Toronto with huge lots and small modest ranchers. No swimming pools. We had to move away from my father's job, which broke my mother's heart. So although I don't remember it, I spent my life hearing her lament about having to leave paradise on Old Colony Road. Now, essentially, I thought this was just a bullshit post by Victor, right? Maybe it was just another misleading thing. Unfortunately, there's this. There's Viktor Sarudi. If you go onto his MySpace account, it has no profile picture, but what do you see? Viktor Sarudi. This is his MySpace account, and he used to live in North York, Ontario. Right? Right. So this kind of makes the claim that, you know what, maybe he really did live on Old Colony Road. Maybe he was premeditating to go help save the Shermans. I don't know. It's a good question, though. It's a very good fucking question, and it's kind of sketchy that he was a plainclothes officer around that time. Now, just for context, you see he's been very busy online. Is an online stump shop. He sells stumps because he's a woodworker, right? Cedars, woodworker. Oh, I get it now. But I'm going to keep this video very short. I just wanted to kind of enunciate on a few things. And just for context, this is another one of Cedar's posts. Well, I'll confess, I'm a detective from TPS trying to steer this, he said it again, I'm trying to steer this vital crime-solving forum in the right direction. So if anyone can find that taken down video from Division 33 with Viktor Sarudi saying he was on Web Sleuths, please find that video. That'd be great. Just probably a small detail here. Viktor Sarudi's best friend, his name is Dominic Moella. He works for Gold Dome Electrical Contractors Incorporated. Dom Moella, he also was a cop. And apparently Viktor Sarudi and Dominic Moella, or whatever the fuck his name is, apparently they have a podcast called For the Gram, where they talk about hustle culture and they talk about being successful on Instagram. That's interesting, right? That's interesting. That's cute. I don't know. It's just really hard to piece this stuff together sometimes. Contractors, what does contractors mean? Right? Do they just do electrical work, or do they do like home inspections? Or because when you see the word contractor, it's usually a very dubious, devious word. Like contracting for what? What do you consider contracting? Gold Dome Electrical. Okay. Maybe he was doing home inspections. Maybe that's his job. But he's also a woodworker, so he's very close to Viktor Sarudi. I think he's so close, in fact, he'd probably know Viktor's whole life story, really and truly. But, just a small detail, not a big deal. He also has this website called M Inspired Living. Check that out. You can see he's pointing at you. Check that out, M Inspired Living. Anyways, this is going to be a short video. I just wanted to highlight, was Viktor Sarudi the plainclothes officer? He was docked in pay in 2017. Around the same time, he was an undercover cop. Just food for thought, just food for thought. Who knows? Maybe we'll solve this shit. Maybe we'll figure this shit out. Who knows? But that's all for today. Have a good day. And, don't sweat it. Just breathe easy. Make a cup of cocoa or something. Make a cup of cocoa. Make a cup of cocoa for yourself. And stay healthy. Viktor Sarudi. But stay healthy. Have a cup of cocoa. Yeah, anyways, have a good day. Hi there, how's it going today? Today we'll be going into Was Viktor Sarudi the Plainclothes Officer, Part 3 in the Barry and Honey Sherman murder case. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because essentially Viktor Sarudi, he's a little bit of an entrepreneur, you might not know. But he has this thing called the stump shop. And what's so interesting about the stump shop is that he, with his amount of money, right? If you were to say, I don't know, to steal a watch from a very wealthy couple that could net you hundreds of thousands of dollars if you sold it on a legal resale, how much money could you spend, and what would you spend it on? I don't know. That's just a hypothetical. I wouldn't know. I've never stolen like $1 million watch before. But what would be interesting is let's compare it to like this superhero cop named Viktor Sarudi. What would he do with the money to save millionaires from burglaries if he had the money? Like if he was like some Batman figure, what would he do with it? What would he do with his money? Like if he had all this money and power, like what would he do with it? Because we're trying to get into the mind of a superhero right now. And this is Viktor Sarudi. He's an officer with Division 53, and this is his stump shop. Now, if you don't know what a stump shop is, he sells stumps. These wooden stumps he's able to carve out and sell as furniture or like luxury art pieces and stuff. But the funny thing about that is in order to do that, he does need a little bit of help. He needs a little bit of technological help, which he's very savvy with, right? What's this? Wood tools, home decor projects. Okay, that's cool. That's very creative. He's making epoxies with all these toys, you know, fun with the kids, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, you know, you check it out, and he's a very talented guy. What does he say? Whatever pops into my head, I share here. CNC laser and 3D printing stuff too. Now, this is why Viktor Sarudi is such a superhero cop. This is why I think Viktor Sarudi is a superhero cop. Because he would know, right? Because he has a 3D printer, he would know exactly how the Shermans were murdered. You see, the thing is, the Shermans initially were claimed to be a murder-suicide, but they had these thin ligature restraints on their necks, right? Compressing down on them. So there were belts tied around their necks, but that thin ligature basically proved that they were murdered in a different way, and the murder-suicide theory was bullshit. But Viktor Sarudi, that's why he went to the house, right? He was so smart. He already had premonition. He already knew what was going to happen ahead of time. So the thing about Viktor Sarudi is if you asked him, right, like how did the Shermans die? Well, he has a 3D printer and he also has a laser cutter, right? Actually, I look back in his timeline. He had the laser cutter before the 3D printer. So Viktor Sarudi could tell you, even with just a laser cutter, you could essentially cut out or trace out these plastic zip ties, probably some very thick plastic zip ties, to kill the Shermans. So if you know Viktor Sarudi, you should ask him, like, yo, like, I think you know what's up. I think you really, really know what's up. So I'm looking here, you know, this is like the 7-View Chrysler. This is in Newmarket, I believe. I could be wrong. Where is this? Anyways, so Viktor Sarudi, he lives in Newmarket, right? So I'm just trying to get a better picture on him because he's holding up this sign. It's kind of obscuring what car he bought. But based on this profile, it says, congratulations, Viktor Sarudi, on his purchase of his 2019 Ram 1500 Classic, which it got me so confused, right? Because of the stump shop and his Instagram videos and stuff like that. I actually went to the neighborhood, right? Because I looked at this neighborhood, and it has like this large circular, right? It's Memorial Circle. It has this kind of circular look to it. So I decided, okay, well, you know, maybe let's see, you know, what does a hero really look like? So because he lives in Newmarket, I believe he lives at Frank Stronach Park, 850 Memorial Circle. You'll see this here. You'll see this green power box, which is also in the video Viktor Sarudi released. Because as you see, in Viktor Sarudi's video, there was a school bus which dropped off his kid approximately around this area. So I don't know if Viktor Sarudi has, I don't know, let's say a Chrysler or a 1500 Classic, or whether he has a Ford F-150. Whether he has a Ford F-150. And that's what I'm kind of wondering right now, really and truly. Because Viktor Sarudi, he also has, an Amazon page. And on his Amazon page, he's actually selling these car truck antennas. And as you see here, these car truck antennas are for a Ford F-150. Now, why would Viktor Sarudi want to hide what vehicle he's driving? I think there's a logical explanation for this, actually. Right? And again, you see here, this is the truck antennas he's selling. Truck antenna compatible with Ford F-150, 7-inch car replacement, whatever. Right? I would understand why, you know, Viktor Sarudi might want to obscure what truck he's driving. I mean, that makes sense to me because when you really look at it, go to his sunshine list, right? Viktor Sarudi is a Division 53 officer. And what you see here is, in 2017, he was working as a plainclothes officer. So that's exactly what Kevin Donovan from the Toronto Star said. He said a plainclothes officer went to the Shermans and was in their driveway a day or two after they were murdered. Okay, so if Viktor Sarudi is an undercover cop, no, it makes perfect sense why, you know, he would have, you know, obscure the actual vehicle he's driving if he does in fact own a Ford F-150. But what's also very strange is not just this Ford F-150, if he in fact does live here, but is this vehicle, this darker vehicle. Because what Kevin Donovan also said in the Toronto Star is there was a dark colored SUV that parked into the Sherman's driveway. And I'm guessing it wasn't this black truck. I'm sorry. I'm guessing it wasn't a black truck. Hypothetically, it could have been a dark-colored SUV. Maybe that makes sense. Maybe Viktor Sarudi was driving his wife's car, and he was undercover, so he parked this car into the driveway of the Shermans. Right. Okay. That makes a little bit more sense. So when it comes to this hero cop, I think I'm really getting into the mind state of what he's about. And, that stump shop, hypothetically speaking, I mean, if you were to steal $1 million watch, Viktor Sarudi would know that you could absolutely, if you have $100,000 from illegal resale, you could start up a small business. You might not have $1 million from a $1 million watch, but from the illegal resale, you could start a stump shop, and you could start selling stumps, and you could buy a laser printer, and you could buy all this shit, or a 3D printer. So he also has this For the Gram podcast, right? And let's take a listen here. Oh, wait, no, that's a picture. Hold up. 1 second. Right? Viktor Sarudi, let's just say this. He's a family man. Viktor Sarudi, he's a family man. When you see it, right? Like, he gets all gushy inside. And that's the thing. Like, you can say you're a family man, but until you really get in there and you really start, like, acting out on, that urge to be a family man, you're never going to know when you see one. You're never going to know. So that's what I find interesting, right? Like, the dad pants, the Hawaiian shirts, it doesn't lie. It never lies. So, okay. So just 1 second. Bear with me here, okay? Yeah. 1 second. So we talked about the antennas. He probably drives a Ford F-150. Oh, yeah. Okay. For the Gram podcast. Right, just one last second too. He has this podcast. It's like a hustle bro, work culture bullshit. Conferences, meetups, and Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know. I don't see what Mrs. Doubtfire has to do with hustle culture, but we're gonna see. We're gonna find out. Let's take a look here.
All right. Let's hop into before you sing the song, I want to tell you I'm sure you haven't even listened to the last episode, but I gave you a run for your money on singing the mailbag song.
Okay.
I'm like the Italian Barry White, just so you know.
Who the hell is Barry White?
Sing the song.
Is he like a lead singer to one of your stupid bands?
Even Vic knows who Barry White is.
Was he in Scorpions? What was that? Is that a band that you listen to?
Yes, but he wasn't.
Here I go again on my own. Is he that guy? Does he sing that song?
That's David Coverdale.
See, you know everything.
That's David. The magician sings that song. No, that's David Copperfield. That guy's a good voice. I just want to reiterate what I said earlier in this episode, that I am definitely smarter than you two guys.
More experience. That's true.
Anyways, come on, sing the song.
Let's dive into this week's.
So as you can see here, this is very personable, right? You can tell. Viktor Sarudi, he loves just a good laugh, So, his references are really funny. His cultural references, Barry White, Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't really see what those references have to do with hustle culture. But you know what, Viktor Sarudi? I'll give you that one. Man, you really are a man of the people, and you're clearly a cultural commentator. Viktor Sarudi. Like, who wouldn't want to listen to the For the Gram podcast? And it's so funny because the person that was on your channel, Viktor, you brought him on, and then you acted like a total dick. Because essentially, he was someone who actually had a business. He was probably making millions of dollars while you were making, a couple thousand off of your stumps. And like a total, narcissistic, egotistic douchebag. I'm pretty sure you just, you talked down to this man because he wouldn't give you a sponsor. and you want to talk about hustle culture. Meanwhile, you're doing shit like this. Anyways, so I know I'm not gonna be the Joker, and I'm not gonna or the Riddler. The Riddler's a good one. I think most if you are a superhero cop, right? If you really are a superhero cop, then maybe, for example, you might want to cross-reference your photos and see what comes up. Because I think you love leaving little clues here and there. I think I'm not the only one. I think you and I both know who killed the Shermans, Victor. All right then. Have a good day.